He could not believe what he was seeing. The room was silent, too silent, like the air itself was holding its breath. Soft blue lights moved across the curved silver walls, and in the center of the chamber stood the Alien Empress, the most powerful being in the known galaxy. But it was not her presence that froze him in place. It was what stood behind her. His heart began to pound, so hard he thought she could hear it. This was not possible, he told himself. Humans were never allowed inside the private chamber of the Empress. Humans were barely trusted enough to walk the main halls of the flagship. And yet, here he was, standing on polished crystal floors that reflected his shaking figure back at him. 3 days earlier, his life had been simple. He was only a junior diplomatic assistant aboard the Imperial flagship Avarice. His job was small, almost invisible. He translated human messages into the alien language, organized files, and carried reports between officers. The Alien Empire ruled hundreds of star systems. They were tall, calm, and powerful beings with silver skin and glowing eyes. Humans were newcomers in space, weaker in technology and military strength. The Empire did not fear humans. They tolerated them. That was all. He had learned to keep his head down and speak only when asked. That was the safest way to survive among giants. Then everything changed. It happened during his evening shift. He was reviewing a simple trade report when his console screen suddenly turned gold. Gold was not a normal color for system alerts. Gold meant Imperial priority. A message appeared with the official royal seal. Human diplomatic assistant Aaron Hale, you are summoned to the private chamber of the Empress immediately. He stared at the message, certain it was a mistake. No human had ever been invited to her private chamber. Not ambassadors, not generals, not even Earth's highest leaders. His hands felt cold as he read the message again. There was no mistake. Within minutes, 2 Imperial Guard arrived at his station. They did not speak. They simply motioned for him to follow. The walk through the flagship felt longer than usual. Other aliens watched him with quiet curiosity, some with confusion, some with something that looked like suspicion. The private sector of the ship was sealed behind massive doors made of dark metal that shimmered like liquid shadow. Only the Empress and her most trusted council were allowed beyond that point. When the doors opened, a wave of cool air touched his face. The guard stopped at the entrance. One of them looked down at him and said in a calm voice, "Enter alone." Alone. That word echoed in his mind. He stepped forward, and the doors closed behind him with a deep, final sound. The chamber was larger than he expected. The ceiling curved high above him like the inside of a glowing shell. Strange symbols moved slowly across the walls, as if the room itself was alive. At the far end stood the Empress, tall and graceful, her silver robes flowing softly around her. Her glowing eyes rested on him, steady and unreadable. He lowered his head respectfully. "You summoned me, Your Majesty," he said carefully. Her voice was calm when she answered. "Yes, human, I did." There was no anger in her tone, no pride either, only something else, something he could not name. She stepped aside slowly. "Come closer," she said. Each step he took felt heavy. His thoughts raced with questions. Had he made a mistake in a report? Was Earth in danger? Was this about diplomacy or something worse? He stopped a few steps away from her. Then he saw it. Behind the Empress, partially hidden in shadow, was something completely impossible. Something that did not belong inside the chamber of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. His breath caught in his throat. He felt his entire understanding of the Empire begin to crack. "This cannot be real," he whispered without thinking. The Empress did not look surprised by his reaction. Instead, she watched him carefully, almost studying him. "You were chosen because you observe before you speak," she said quietly. He looked at her again, confusion filling his mind. Chosen. For what, Hayam? He was not brave, not important, not powerful. He was just human. Before we continue this story, if you enjoyed deep sci-fi mysteries and human strength stories, gently consider subscribing to this channel so you do not miss what happens next. The Empress moved closer to him, her voice lowering slightly. "What you see here must not be known by anyone else," she said. The room seemed to grow even quieter. His heart pounded harder than ever. He looked back at the impossible thing in her chamber, and in that moment, he realized his life would never return to normal again. Aaron could not take his eyes away from it. Behind the Alien Empress, hidden in the shadow of the curved silver wall, was not a weapon, not a prisoner, not an alien artifact. It was a human flag, not a hologram, not a digital copy, but real fabric, slightly worn at the edges, the blue and green of Earth clearly visible under the soft light. The flag was mounted carefully on a slim metal stand, placed with respect, not carelessness. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. The human flag was not banned in the Empire, but it was never displayed in royal chambers. Humans were considered young, emotional, unpredictable, not equal partners, certainly not worthy of symbolic honor. "Why is this here?" he asked before he could stop himself. The Empress did not answer immediately. She walked slowly toward the flag and gently touched the edge of the fabric with her silver fingers. Her glowing eyes softened for a moment. "This," she said quietly, "is the reason you are here." Aaron felt a cold wave move through his chest. "You brought me here to show me a flag?" he asked carefully. "No," she replied, her voice steady. "I brought you here because this flag must remain a secret." The word secret hung in the air like heavy smoke. Aaron looked around the chamber again, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt. "If anyone finds out that you keep this here," he said slowly, "they will question you." "They will do more than question," she answered. For the first time since he entered the room, he sensed something unexpected in her tone. Fear. Not fear of him, not fear of Earth, but fear of her own people. She turned away from the flag and walked toward a console built into the wall. With a simple gesture, the air in front of them filled with glowing images. Star maps appeared, marked with red flashing points. Energy lines showed weak areas in Imperial defenses. Supply routes flickered in unstable patterns. "The Empire appears strong," she said calmly. "But strength can be an illusion." Aaron stepped closer to the projection. "Those are outer colonies," he said, recognizing some names. "Yes," she replied, "colonies that have stopped responding." He swallowed. "Attacked," he whispered. "Tested," she corrected him. "Someone is testing us." The thought settled heavily in his mind. The Empire ruled hundreds of systems without serious challenge for generations. To test them meant someone believed they could win. "Why show this to a human?" he asked, turning back to her. "Because humans understand survival," she said without hesitation. He almost laughed at that. "We are not stronger than you," he said. "You misunderstand strength," she replied. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "You survive not because you are superior, but because you adapt faster than fear can control you." He had no answer for that. She walked closer, lowering her voice even more. "There are members of my council who believe humanity should remain limited, controlled, watched carefully," she continued. "They believe humans will eventually become a threat." Aaron felt anger rise in his chest, but he stayed silent. "I believe something different," she said. Her hand moved slightly toward the human flag again. "I believe humanity may be the only reason this empire survives what is coming." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. "What is coming?" he asked. Instead of answering directly, she changed the star map. A dark region of space appeared, unclaimed and silent. Deep within it, a faint energy pulse flickered, almost invisible. "We have detected signals older than our empire," she said slowly. "Older than your species." Aaron stared at the pulse. "You think something is out there?" he said. "I know something is out there," she replied. "And it is moving." A chill ran down his spine. "Why hide this?" he asked. "Because fear spreads faster than truth," she said calmly. "If my council learns I am preparing alliances without their consent, they will remove me." Aaron's eyes widened. "Remove you?" "Yes," she answered, her expression steady again. "Power in this empire belongs to the throne only as long as the council agrees." He realized then that the most powerful being in the galaxy was standing on fragile ground. "You want humanity to help," he said slowly. "I want humanity to be ready," she corrected him. "And I need someone who can see this truth without panic." Her glowing eyes searched his face carefully. "Do not tell anyone about this, human," she said, her voice firm but not cruel. "If word spreads, I lose control of the situation. And if the council learns I trust a human with this knowledge, they will consider it betrayal." The weight of her words pressed down on him. He was not just holding a secret. He was holding the stability of an empire. "Why trust me?" he asked quietly. She studied him for a long moment before answering. "Because when you first saw the flag, you did not smile with pride, and you did not react with fear," she said. "You reacted with understanding." He did not know if that was true. He only knew that everything around him felt different now. The empire was not unbreakable. The Empress was not untouchable. And humanity was not as small as he once believed. The star map flickered again, the dark pulse glowing slightly brighter than before. "Time is limited," she said softly, "and you are the only human who knows." Aaron felt the weight of the secret pressing on his chest as the star map continued to glow in the air before them. The dark pulse in the unclaimed region of space flickered again, slightly brighter than before, as if it were aware that it was being watched. "The Empire has ruled for centuries without serious defeat," the Empress said quietly, her eyes fixed on the expanding map, "and that long peace has created a dangerous illusion." Aaron listened carefully. "In what way?" he asked. "In the way comfort weakens instinct," she replied. She moved her hand, and the map shifted, showing supply routes stretching across hundreds of systems like shining threads. "These lines are trade routes, energy transfers, military support paths," she explained. "They look strong because they are many, but they're dependent on each other." Aaron noticed that when one line dimmed, others flickered unstable. "It is like a web," he said slowly. "Yes," she nodded, "and a web collapses when the center loses balance." The idea unsettled him. The Empire had always seemed like a solid wall of power, not a fragile web of connections. She changed the display again, and this time it showed council chambers filled with tall silver figures debating with calm but tense expressions. "Internal stability is our true weakness," she continued. Aaron watched the silent recording. Some council members looked angry, others cautious. "Our outer colonies are not just being tested by an unknown force," she said. "They are also questioning the authority of the throne." He frowned. "Rebellion," he whispered. "Not yet," she corrected him, "but doubt has begun." The word doubt felt more dangerous than rebellion. Rebellion could be crushed. Doubt could spread quietly. "Why would they doubt you?" Aaron asked carefully. She turned off the council image and faced him directly. "Because strength requires visible certainty," she said, "and I have started preparing for a threat I have not publicly named." "You mean the dark region," he said, glancing at the faint pulse again. "Yes," she replied. She stepped closer to him, her voice steady but lower. "If I announce a danger without proof, I create fear," she said. "If I stay silent and the danger strikes, I appear unprepared." Aaron understood the trap. Either choice risked losing control. "You are balancing on a thin line," he said. "I've been balancing for months," she answered. The star map shifted once more, and this time Aaron saw something that made his stomach tighten. Imperial fleets were positioned in patterns that left certain regions lightly defended. "You have concentrated forces near the core systems," he observed. "Yes," she said, "to protect the political center. And that leaves the edges exposed," he finished. She nodded slowly. "The Empire grew too large, too fast," she admitted. "Expansion created pride, and pride created blindness." Aaron felt a strange mix of fear and respect. The most powerful ruler in the galaxy was openly admitting flaws in her own empire. "Why show this to a human?" he asked again, still struggling to understand his role. "Because humans have lived on the edge of extinction many times," she said calmly. Your species has faced global wars, environmental collapse, resource scarcity, internal division. Her glowing eyes studied him carefully. Yet you survived each crisis not by unified perfection, but by chaotic adaptation. Aaron thought about Earth's history. It was not clean or noble. It was messy, violent, emotional, but it endured. You believe we can teach you something, he said slowly. I believe you understand survival when stability fails, she replied. The dark pulse on the map brightened again, this time spreading faint lines outward like cracks in glass. Aaron's breath slowed. It is expanding, he said quietly. Yes, she answered, and it is not using normal propulsion. She magnified the signal, revealing energy readings that did not match any known technology. It bypasses detection by bending surrounding radiation, she explained. Aaron felt small again. If that force reaches your outer colonies, he said, it will test more than our defenses, she replied. She deactivated the projection, and the chamber returned to its soft blue glow. Silence filled the space between them. The Empire's weakness is not technology, she continued after a moment. It is belief. He looked at her, confused. Our people believe we cannot fall, she explained, and when a civilization believes it cannot fall, it stops preparing for failure. He felt the truth of that statement settle deeply. Earth had never had the luxury of believing it was invincible. Your council would never admit this, he said. They would consider it weakness, she replied. And yet you are telling me, he said softly. She held his gaze. Because if I fall, someone must understand why, she said. The words struck him harder than any threat. You think you might lose control, he realized. I think control is already slipping, she corrected him gently. A faint vibration moved through the floor beneath them, subtle but real. Aaron felt it in his bones. What was that? He asked. She turned toward the sealed doors of her chamber, her expression unreadable again. That, she said quietly, is another sign that our weakness is no longer hidden. The vibration beneath the floor faded slowly, but the tension it left behind did not disappear. Aaron looked toward the sealed doors of the chamber, wondering if someone had heard or sensed what was happening inside. The Empress remained still for a long moment, as if listening to something beyond normal hearing. Then she turned back to him, her glowing eyes sharper now, more focused. You asked why I chose you, she said quietly. He swallowed, feeling the weight of that question return. Yes, he answered. There are human ambassadors, scientists, military officers, people far more important than me. Her expression did not change, but her voice softened slightly. I did not choose you because of your rank, she said. I chose you because you question without arrogance. He frowned in confusion. That is not special, he replied. It is rare, she corrected him. She moved slowly across the chamber, and a section of the wall lit up behind her, revealing recorded footage from earlier weeks. Aaron recognized the setting immediately. It was a diplomatic meeting room. He saw himself standing near the back, listening as alien officials discussed resource distribution with Earth representatives. The footage zoomed in on him at a specific moment. One alien officer had made a dismissive comment about human industrial limits, suggesting that Earth would always depend on Imperial guidance. Aaron had spoken up then. Not loudly, not aggressively, but calmly. He had said that human history proved dependence never lasted forever. The council members in the recording had reacted with subtle irritation, but he had not backed down. You defended your species without hostility, the Empress said as the footage paused. You did not insult the Empire, and you did not surrender your dignity. He remembered that moment clearly. He had almost regretted speaking at all. I was only being honest, he said quietly. Honesty without pride is dangerous to powerful systems, she replied. The wall display shifted again, showing another scene. This time, it was in the lower decks of the flagship. An alien maintenance worker had been injured during a systems malfunction. Other crew members had hesitated, unsure how to assist due to biological differences. Aaron had stepped forward, using basic medical training from Earth to stabilize the worker until Imperial medics arrived. You acted without calculation, she continued. You helped someone who considered your species inferior. He felt heat rise in his face. That is just basic decency, he said. To humans, perhaps, she replied. The display faded, and the wall returned to its smooth silver glow. You observe carefully, she said, stepping closer. And when you act, you do so without seeking advantage. He shook his head slightly, still struggling to understand. There are many humans like that, he insisted. Yes, she said, and that is precisely why humanity is dangerous and valuable at the same time. Her words hung in the air between them. Dangerous, he repeated, because you're not predictable, she explained. You break patterns, you adapt emotionally, you change direction quickly. She walked past him and stopped near the human flag again. My council fears what cannot be predicted, she said. They prefer species that follow clear hierarchies and stable logic. And we do not, he finished. You do not, she confirmed. She turned to face him fully. When I began studying human behavior, I expected chaos without structure, she admitted. Instead, I found resilience born from constant instability. He listened carefully. She was not praising humanity blindly. She was analyzing it. The coming threat will not fight by our rules, she continued, her tone becoming more serious. It already bends our detection systems and tests our borders indirectly. If it attacks directly, Aaron said slowly, your fleets will respond. Yes, she agreed, but fleets respond to force with force. She stepped closer, her voice lowering further. What if this enemy uses fear, misinformation, psychological pressure? She asked. What if it weakens belief before firing a single weapon? He felt a chill move through him. Earth had experienced that kind of warfare many times in its history. You think humans understand that kind of conflict better, he said. I think humans survive it better, she corrected. She studied him for another long moment. I did not choose a general, she continued, because generals think in battles. I did not choose a politician because politicians think in advantage. I chose someone who understands fragility without surrendering to it. Her words settled deeply into his mind. But what can I do? He asked honestly. You will listen, she said, and you will carry truth without panic. He noticed something else in her expression now, something almost hidden. You are taking a risk, he realized. Yes, she answered without hesitation. If my council discovers that I have shared classified strategic data with a human, they will accuse me of weakening imperial security. And they could remove you, he said. They could, she replied calmly. Another faint vibration moved through the chamber walls, slightly stronger than before. This time, Aaron heard distant sounds beyond the sealed doors, footsteps perhaps, or shifting guards. They are already suspicious, she said quietly. His pulse quickened. About you trusting humans, he asked. About many things, she answered. She stepped closer, lowering her voice to almost a whisper. If events move faster than expected, you may be forced to leave this ship, she said. Leave, he repeated, surprised. You may need to return to Earth sooner than planned, she explained. To prepare your people. For what? He asked. She held his gaze steadily. For the possibility that the Empire cannot protect itself alone, she said. Before he could respond, a sharp metallic sound echoed from the sealed doors. Not a knock, not a polite request, but a coded access attempt. Aaron felt his heart pound in his chest. The Empress straightened instantly, her expression returning to cold imperial control. It seems, she said calmly, though her eyes glowed slightly brighter, that someone wishes to know why a human stands inside my private chamber. The coded access tone echoed again through the chamber doors, sharper this time, more demanding. Aaron felt every muscle in his body tighten as the Empress turned away from him and walked toward the center of the room, her posture shifting instantly from private vulnerability to public authority. In a single breath, she became untouchable again. Stand behind me and say nothing, she said quietly without looking at him. The doors slid open with a heavy metallic sound, and a tall silver figure stepped inside without waiting for permission. It was High General Kael'Varis, commander of the Imperial Defense Fleets. His armor was dark and polished, marked with battle insignias that glowed faintly under the chamber lights. His eyes locked immediately onto Aaron. A human inside, the private chamber of the Empress was not something he expected to see. "Your Majesty," the general said with a slight bow that felt more formal than respectful. "I was informed that your chamber registered an unscheduled presence." His gaze did not move from Aaron as he spoke. The Empress's voice was calm and sharp. "I do not require clearance to summon who I wish," she replied. "Of course," the general answered smoothly, "but given recent instability at our borders, security protocols have been strengthened." The word instability carried weight. Aaron could feel the silent tension between them. The general stepped further into the room, scanning the space carefully. For one terrifying moment, Aaron feared his eyes would land on the human flag hidden in shadow. But the Empress subtly shifted her position, blocking that area from direct view. "This human," the general continued, "is a diplomatic assistant, not a strategic advisor. I am aware of his position," the Empress said coldly. "Then may I ask why he stands in the most secure chamber of the Empire?" the general pressed. The air felt thinner. Aaron kept his head lowered as instructed, but his mind raced. One wrong word could destroy everything. The Empress did not hesitate. "I summoned him to review translation errors in human communications," she said evenly. "There are inconsistencies in their trade projections." The general studied her carefully. "For such a minor issue," he said slowly, "a council linguist would have been sufficient." Her eyes sharpened. "Are you questioning my judgment, General?" she asked softly. The room seemed to grow colder. "I am protecting imperial stability," he replied, but there was challenge beneath his tone. A faint, alert tone echoed in the background, subtle but persistent. Aaron noticed the general glance, briefly, toward the wall displays. The outer colony reports were likely updating in real time. "Reports from the Varix cluster have ceased entirely," the general said, shifting focus. 3 systems silent within hours. Aaron felt a wave of dread. The dark pulse was no longer testing quietly. It was advancing. The Empress's expression did not change. "Dispatch reinforcement fleets," she ordered calmly. "They are already en route," the general replied. Then he looked at Aaron again. "And yet you choose this moment to summon a human." The accusation was clear now. The general suspected something more than translation errors. The Empress took one slow step forward, forcing the general to adjust his stance. "Be careful, General," she said quietly. "Your tone suggests distrust." The tension was electric. For a moment, Aaron wondered if the general might openly challenge her authority. Instead, Kael'Varis gave a shallow bow. "My loyalty is to the Empire," he said. "As is mine," she replied instantly. The general's gaze lingered on Aaron one last time before he turned toward the exit. "Security will monitor all non-imperial personnel movements more closely," he said. The message was clear. Aaron was now under suspicion. When the doors sealed shut again, the silence returned, but it was heavier than before. "He knows," Aaron said quietly. "He suspects." The Empress corrected, though her voice carried strain. "He will investigate," Aaron added. "Yes," she replied. She walked toward the wall and activated the star map again. The dark pulse had expanded significantly, consuming 2 more marked systems. Red warning signals blinked rapidly across the projection. "This is moving faster than predicted," she said under her breath. "Your fleets will not reach those colonies in time," Aaron observed. "No," she admitted. He felt a deep shift inside him. The Empire was not just fragile. It was already bleeding. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. She turned to face him, her expression now serious beyond pride. "You must prepare to leave this ship," she said. The words hit him like sudden gravity. "Leave," he repeated. "You will return to Earth with data," she continued. "Strategic projections, enemy energy signatures, fleet positioning gaps." "That is treason," he said carefully. "Yes," she replied without hesitation. If discovered, I will be removed and likely executed for compromising Imperial security. He stared at her, shocked by the calm certainty in her voice. Why risk that, he asked. Because if humanity is not prepared when this force reaches your region of space, your world will fall without understanding what destroyed it, she said. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. Another urgent, alert tone echoed through the chamber, louder this time. She glanced at the projection again. The Varex cluster defense fleet has gone silent, she said quietly. Aaron felt cold. That meant entire fleets had vanished. Not defeated in visible battle, just erased. The betrayal was no longer just political. It was strategic. The Empire's confidence had blinded it. The Council's doubt was dividing it. And now an external force was exploiting every weakness. She stepped closer to him once more, lowering her voice. You must leave before the General restricts your movement, she said. Once he proves I share classified data, he will act. And if he confronts you publicly, Aaron asked, then the Council will choose stability over truth, she answered calmly. The chamber lights flickered faintly as another distant tremor moved through the ship. The war had begun, not with a declaration, not with an explosion, but with silence spreading across the stars. The silence that followed the loss of the Varex cluster felt louder than any explosion. Aaron stood in the center of the Empress's private chamber, staring at the star map as red warning lights multiplied across the outer systems. Entire fleets had vanished without sending distress calls, without debris, without even fragments of radiation. They had simply stopped existing. This is not conventional warfare, Aaron said quietly, his voice tight. No, the Empress replied, her eyes fixed on the dark, expanding region. It is systematic removal. She enlarged the map, showing patterns Aaron had not noticed before. The silent systems formed a slow spiral path toward the Imperial core. It is moving toward us, he said. It is learning as it advances, she corrected. Another alert flashed, this time from a mid-range defense platform. Energy fluctuations had been detected, then immediately lost. The enemy did not fire visible weapons. It erased infrastructure like a shadow consuming light. Aaron felt the weight of the moment settle into his bones. You said I must leave, he reminded her. Yes, she said, turning toward him, but timing is everything. She moved to the central console and began transferring encrypted files into a small crystalline data core. These contained fleet positions, energy scans, communication algorithms, and predictive models, she explained. If Earth receives this, your leaders will have months to prepare. And if they do not, he asked carefully, then your planet will meet this force blind, she replied. The chamber doors vibrated suddenly with another coded request. This time the signal was more aggressive. The general was not politely waiting. He is gathering support, Aaron said. Yes, the Empress answered calmly. The Council fears instability more than invasion. Aaron struggled to understand that logic. You mean they would rather remove you than admit the Empire is vulnerable, he said. They believe replacing leadership restores confidence, she replied, and confidence is their illusion of strength. The door's signal intensified, and a new message appeared on the wall display. Council session emergency authorization requested. They are calling for a formal review of my authority, she said quietly. The choice now stood clearly before her. Protect her throne and preserve the appearance of unity, or act decisively and risk immediate removal. Aaron stepped closer. If you send me with that data now, and they intercept it, you confirm their fears, he said. Yes, she agreed. If you refuse to send it, Earth remains unaware, he continued. Yes, she repeated. The impossible choice hung between them. For the first time since he met her, Aaron saw hesitation in her expression. Not fear, but calculation. If I fall, she said slowly, the next ruler will follow Council consensus. And the Council does not trust humanity, Aaron finished. No, she said. The door access tone shifted from request to override attempt. Security barriers began to strain under authorized codes. They are forcing entry, Aaron realized. Yes, she replied. She walked toward him, holding the crystalline data core in her hand. This decision will define the Empire, she said softly, and possibly your species. The lights flickered again as distant impacts vibrated through the hull of the flagship. For the first time, Aaron heard faint reports echoing through internal comm channels. Outer defensive screens had failed in 2 more sectors. The enemy was no longer only at the edges. It was approaching inhabited systems. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed clarity. Power that protects only itself is already weak, she said quietly. Then she pressed the data core into his hand. You will leave now. Before he could respond, she activated a hidden command panel. A secondary transport corridor lit up on the far wall, concealed until this moment. This passage bypasses primary security checkpoints, she explained. It leads to a diplomatic shuttle assigned to Earth delegates. And you? Aaron asked. I will attend the council session, she answered calmly. You will face them alone, he said. I have always faced them alone, she replied. The door barrier cracked partially as heavy impact struck from the other side. The general was done waiting. You are risking execution, Aaron said, unable to hide the urgency in his voice. Yes, she answered without emotion. If I am removed, it will be under charges of reckless alliance. And if you are not removed, he pressed, then the Empire survives long enough to adapt, she said. She stepped closer one final time, her glowing eyes steady on his. Do not let fear guide your leaders, she said firmly. Humans fight differently. He nodded slowly, gripping the data core tightly. I will make sure they listen, he said. The hidden corridor door slid open behind him, revealing a narrow path lit by dim blue lights. As he stepped backward into the passage, the main chamber doors finally burst open. Armed Imperial guards flooded inside, followed by General Kael'varis. Aaron caught one last glimpse of the Empress standing tall at the center of the room, her posture regal, her expression unreadable. Your Majesty, the general said sharply, the council demands explanation. Her voice remained calm and absolute. Then let the council hear the truth, she replied. The hidden passage sealed behind Aaron as alarms began echoing through the flagship. War had reached the heart of the Empire, and the fate of 2 civilizations now depended on a single impossible decision. The hidden corridor closed behind Aaron with a soft metallic seal, cutting off the sound of shouting voices and armored footsteps. For a moment he stood in the narrow blue-lit passage, breathing hard, the crystalline data core pressed tightly in his palm. He wanted to look back. He wanted to see what was happening in that chamber. But he knew he could not. Ahead of him, the corridor curved downward toward the diplomatic hangar, silent and nearly empty. The flagship no longer felt invincible. It felt hunted. As he moved quickly through the passage, emergency alerts echoed faintly through the structure. Outer shields collapsing, defense grids failing, unidentified energy distortion approaching the inner systems. The dark pulse was no longer distant. It was here. He reached the diplomatic shuttle bay and saw only a small maintenance crew, confused and receiving conflicting orders. Before they could question him, his clearance badge activated automatically, overriding access restrictions. The Empress had prepared this carefully. The shuttle doors opened, and he rushed inside. The engines powered up with a low hum. Then the ship lifted away from the flagship, just as distant flashes of strange dark light rippled across the stars outside. He turned his seat to look back at the Imperial flagship Avarice. For the first time, he saw it not as a symbol of control, but as something fragile in an ocean of uncertainty. Then space itself bent unnaturally around the outer hull. Not an explosion, not a beam of light, but a silent distortion that swallowed sections of nearby defense ships whole. They did not break apart. They simply vanished. Aaron felt cold fear settle deep in his chest. This was the force the Empress had feared. This was the reason she had kept the human flag in her private chamber. The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light travel, pulling him away from the scene before he could witness more destruction. Hours later, as he approached the edge of Imperial space, emergency transmissions flooded open channels. Council members arguing publicly, fleet commanders demanding unified authority, and then a single official announcement cut through the noise. By majority vote of the High Council, Empress Talaran V is temporarily relieved of supreme command pending investigation. Aaron closed his eyes. She had known this would happen. She had chosen it anyway. Earth's orbital defenses detected his shuttle hours later. Military escorts surrounded him immediately, suspicious and cautious. When he arrived on the surface, he was rushed into a secure command facility deep underground. Human generals, scientists, and political leaders gathered around him as he placed the crystalline data core onto the central table. "They are coming," he said simply. At first there was disbelief, then silence as the data unfolded into projections of erased star systems and advancing distortions. Human leaders watched in shock as Imperial fleets disappeared without resistance. "Is this verified?" one general asked. "Yes," Aaron answered. "And the Empress gave you this?" Another questioned. "Yes," he replied again. There were whispers across the room. Some saw opportunity in the Empire's weakness. Others saw shared danger. "She risked her throne to send this," Aaron said firmly. "That means something." The room quieted. Earth had always viewed the Empire with caution, sometimes resentment. But this was different. This was extinction-level threat. As strategic planning began immediately, Aaron stepped away from the table. His mind drifted back to that private chamber, to the human flag standing carefully behind the Empress, to the way she had touched it not with conquest, but with respect. Days later, long-range sensors confirmed the impossible. The Dark Force had reached the Imperial core systems. Council fleets engaged and vanished within minutes. Emergency transmissions from the flagship Avarice were fragmented and desperate. Then a final broadcast emerged across all frequencies. It was not from the Council. It was from her. Her image appeared across human and alien networks alike. Her silver robes slightly damaged, but her posture unbroken. "To the people of the Empire and to humanity," she began calmly, "the threat we face does not divide by species." Behind her, Aaron recognized the chamber, and just barely visible in the background, the human flag still stood in place. "The strength of an empire is not measured by control," she continued. "It is measured by its willingness to adapt." Her message was interrupted by distortions flickering across the screen. "Humanity was once considered fragile," she said quickly, "but fragility teaches survival." The transmission cut abruptly. Silence followed. No confirmation of her survival arrived afterward. Only scattered reports that the flagship had been heavily damaged but not destroyed. Earth did not wait for certainty. Human fleets mobilized faster than the Council ever believed possible. Civilian industries converted to military production within days. Old rival nations coordinated without hesitation. Humanity did not panic. It adapted. As the first human defense line met the advancing distortion near the edge of the solar system, something unexpected happened. The Dark Force did not immediately erase the fleet. It paused. Energy readings fluctuated strangely, as if the enemy had not predicted resistance structured in chaotic formation patterns. Human ships moved unpredictably, switching tactics rapidly, creating interference fields built from improvised technology based on the Empress's data. For the first time since the invasion began, the dark distortion slowed. Months later, as joint human and surviving Imperial forces pushed back cautiously, Aaron found himself once again standing inside that same private chamber aboard a repaired but scarred flagship. The walls were cracked in places, the lighting dimmer, but the chamber still stood, and so did the human flag. He heard footsteps behind him and turned slowly. The Empress stood there, her armor marked with signs of battle, but her glowing eyes steady as ever. "You did not tell anyone about what you saw," she said quietly. He shook his head slightly. "I told them only what they needed to know," he replied. She walked past him and looked at the flag once more. "The truth in this room was never about secrecy," she said softly. "It was about trust." He understood now. The Empire had believed strength meant control and certainty. But in the end, survival came from something far simpler, a willingness to trust what once seemed weak. And as the stars outside slowly brightened again with restored systems and new alliances, one truth became clear across the galaxy. The strongest empire had not been saved by pride or fear. It had been saved by the choice to believe in a human.